Good evening. My name is Brad. I'm alcoholic. Can we open with the serenity prayer? God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We would like to welcome you guys all to the March Through the Steps workshop. This is the third one we've put on. We're very excited to have you guys here and to partake in this with us this weekend. I would like to thank all the speakers that came down and devoted time and spent money to come down and be with us. We're just very grateful, and everybody that's helped out, and just really looking forward to this weekend. Before we get started, Ron would like to come and say a few things.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Roma. I'm a recovered alcoholic. So in 2009, we decided that we wanted a speakers meeting up here in North Wilmington, kind of like what we saw in South College in Newark. So, a group of us got together and formed this group. 2012, we were asked to leave, but just a few odd, things happen, with alcoholics early in recovery. But today we're back. You guys want to tell me that God doesn't work? I run this church. I was one of the members that were thrown out of this church. But what I wanted to do is explain. We have two bathrooms in the back, a women's bathroom and a unisex. And we also have 3 bathrooms down this hall, right by the band. One here and 2 at the end of the hall. So there is 5 bathrooms. The bathrooms down here are all unisex. So, just in respect to the speakers, if we have to use the bathrooms down here, please just walk around through there. And this is going to be a great event. I'm glad that we're back. We're going to try to bring another early Saturday morning meeting here. It's going to be a speaker step meeting. We're looking, probably in the next month or so, we're going to do it late morning before afternoon, just because we're getting a lot of complaints with people saying 7 o'clock meetings and 7:30 meetings in the morning are too early on a Saturday morning. So why not? We have the facility, we have the room. Why not appease the masses? And that's basically all I wanted to say. And I just wanted to welcome everybody back here. This is an awesome meeting space, and I hope everybody has a great time. Thanks.
Typical alcoholics will complain about anything, right? All right, so let's get started. I've asked a friend to read the preamble.
Hey guys, what's up? My name's Tim. I'm an alcoholic. It's for tall people. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thanks for letting me read.
Throughout the workshop, we will be passing a basket around. We don't charge for this workshop, so we like to make it as available for anyone who wants to come. But there will be baskets passed around just to keep you guys informed of what's going on. So we will now pass a basket for this evening. I've asked a friend to read the 12 steps.
Hey guys, my name's Jackson. I'm an alcoholic. 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thanks for letting me.
And will you please help me welcome our Friday night speaker, Chris S. from Burnersville, New Jersey.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chris. I'm an alcoholic. Man, it's good to be here. I don't know about anybody else, but this lineup of speakers it's just going to be a really, really cool weekend, and I'm super glad to be here. Brad, thank you for putting this whole thing together, and all the people you coerced into helping here. Certainly appreciate events like this. So, I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous member in good standing. Have been for a long time now, and it's funny. I was the exact kind of person you would not have expected to make it. You know, like when I showed up here, I was controversial. I was contentious. I was judgmental. I gossiped about everybody. I mean, you could just go on and on. Every single character defect in the world. I thought everybody was stupid, and he's stupid. And so I was like the exact wrong person to have been successful in being able to stay here. And I believe today it's a direct result of the grace of God. And I did have a real surrender. I mean, I was tired of experiencing life the way I was experiencing it, and it had dawned on me that my drinking was a little bit of a problem. So, I was a kind of drunk. I was the person that was always the drunkest person there. Can anybody relate to that? You know what I mean? Like, oh, there he is again. Oh, God. And I was always drunker than anybody else. I was always the person who was doing some crazy thing. Did you hear what Chris did? And how I didn't die of misadventure is just. I remember one time climbing an active waterfall in a blackout. With like stuff coming down on my head. Like, I fell 4 or 5 times. Like, you get killed doing that kind of stuff. And that was me. I was just, when alcohol went into my body, because I'm an alcoholic, when I started drinking, I continued to drink. Now, this is unusual out there in the real world. Like Aunt Fanny doesn't have a glass of wine at Thanksgiving and close the bar 3 days later in a different state. But when I started drinking, if alcohol was available and I could drink it, I'd continue to drink it. And you drink like that, you're going to end up doing drunk stuff. And I did an absolutely ton of drunk stuff. And also I believe part of alcoholism is delusion, is seeing things in a deluded way. Yeah, I knew that I drank a lot, and I knew all this stuff, but for me to be able to maintain that type of a lifestyle, to be able to continue to drink as I knew I needed to, I couldn't look at that directly. I had to see that through the lenses that were distorted by delusion. You know, like you'd come up to me and you'd say something like, Chris, you should look at your drinking. You know, this is like the 7th day this week you've been in a blackout. You know, you should probably look at your drinking. I'd be like, well, get out of here. You got to be kidding me. I'm not, get out of my face. I wouldn't be able to accept that type of observation. I would just make sure that I was never in your company ever again. and I ended up drinking with some people toward the end. The last year or two of my drinking, I drank with people, they didn't even have names. You know, there was Weezer, and there was Green Man, and there was a guy named Whack that I would drink with, and he always made sure that you knew that it was Whack with 2 T's. Just crazy people, and really nuts stuff would happen. My last girlfriend, when I was drinking, I met her through a prison pen pal thing that if you're new or coming back, I really don't recommend this, as a dating mechanism because it didn't go well. She came up from Texas and moved in with me and started to commit felony after felony after felony. And it really was unnerving to the neighbors and the people whose cars she was stealing and stuff. And I would just look at this like, well, this is just how you live. You live like this. I'd go over somebody's house and I'd accidentally park on their cat or something, and they'd overreact, and I'd be like, what? What's the problem? So I wasn't seeing things. Right. I crashed a lot of cars, and the thing was I was very, very convinced that I was a good drunk driver, and to this day, I still believe that I was a good drunk driver. I think they should give you drunken road tests, and when you get to your limit and you start failing, the road test, well, that's your limit, because they're giving me the same limit that they're giving amateurs, and 0.0005 or something, And I always felt like I always wanted to have a little bit more confidence on the road, so I would partake. And I think I was a good drunk driver. I just wasn't a good passing out driver, and that's how I crashed all my cars. I would pass out, and this causes concern with a number of people. I swear to God, I'll tell you this one story. This is my alcoholism, in full-blown fashion. This is my alcoholism. So I'm getting my driver's license back for a 3rd DUI. And I'd been walking for 4.5 years, during my prime dating years. I was walking. And I was upset about all this, right? And so I have to go down to this place, Wayne Motor Vehicle, to hand in all this paperwork and show them the canceled checks and the proof of this and the proof of that. And I don't do well with standing in line and doing paperwork and fluorescent lights. I didn't. So I figured a couple of drinks, would make it a lot easier for me to handle this outrageous, inconvenience of having to go to motor vehicle. And so I'm driving on the way down to get my license back for a 3rd DUI. And I started out, at the day, I'm like, kind of repressed and had a little bit of anxiety, not really feeling comfortable with anything. By the time I get down to the motor vehicle, I'm pissed off now that they put me through all this. So I go in there and I gotta sit in front of this lady and I gotta give her, all this paperwork, and then she's gonna give me a slip. and I'm going to go upstairs and get my permit again because I lost my license for so long. I had to get a permit. So I'm like, and here's a canceled check, and here's a proof of insurance, and she leans forward and she starts sniffing me. She starts going. She goes, "Have you been drinking?" I'm like, "No." And she goes, "You smell like vodka." And I'm like, "No." And so she has to give me this slip, right? It's her job. And she hands me the slip. She goes, "Did you drive here?" She hands me the slip, and she wouldn't let go of it. It became like a tug of war. She was trying to save all of you from this maniac that's out on the streets. Now think about this. On a stupid meter, where would getting drunk to go to motor vehicle to get your license back for a third DUI, where would that fall on a stupid meter? You know what I mean? And I'm not really a dumb guy, but there's this strange insanity. There's this relationship I have with alcohol that just distorts my life and my behavior and my attitude and how I'm comporting myself. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Over any considerable period of time, alcoholism gets worse. It does not get better. And that means if you're drinking or not, the alcoholism that lies within you is getting worse. So it became apparent to me that I needed to probably separate from alcohol. And a couple of the reasons were the velocity of my drinking at this point in time had gotten to this point. I had a terrible job with a terrible car, and my life was terrible. But I would leave work and I would go right to the liquor store and I'd buy a quart of vodka or a quart of bourbon, and I'd go home. And before I did anything, I had this like 36-ounce plastic glass. I knew to have plastic glasses, and fill it with ice, and then make a big stiff drink. I sort of got like half a quart of hard liquor in the one drink. How many drinks did you have last night, Chris? Just two. Two big ones. But I would start drinking. So let's say it's 4:45 in the afternoon. I would start drinking and I'd be drunk by 5:45. I'd be in a blackout by 6:45, and I'd be passed out by 7:45. Every single night. And when the weekend would come, I would start drinking as soon as I woke up. I would drink until I passed out. When I came to, I'd start drinking until I passed out. I'd get drunk like 5 times over a 2-day weekend period and start to try to come out of it on Sunday so that I could go to work Monday morning. Now, when you drink like that, it cuts down on things like dating. You're not involved in civic activities. There's no sports. There's nothing. There's just full-blown drinking. And I recognized that there was probably, the quality of my life was probably suffering because of this. So I started to make some attempts to separate from the alcohol. And I found those attempts didn't go very well. So I would come to in the morning and I would say, this morning, I swear to God, it's this morning, I'm making a decision, I'm quitting drinking. I'm not going to drink anymore, ever. And I would mean that. Like if you would wrap a lie detector around my wrist and say, Chris, did you mean what you just said? You're never going to drink again? Never drinking again. Never drinking again. The needle would go to true because I meant it with every fiber of my being. That was a sane decision. That was a sane position considering, my experience with alcohol. What would happen is about halfway through the day, I'd get rehydrated. I'd get maybe half a sandwich down, and quitting time is like 4:30, so it's like 3:30. And I'm starting to think, that decision I made this morning about never drinking ever again, that might be an overreaction. We might have to modify that decision. And by 4:30, I've modified that decision, or at least I think I've modified that decision, into going straight to the liquor store and starting the whole cycle over again. And then the next morning I would say, I'm never going to drink again, ever. I know I've said this 742 times, but there's something different about this time. This time I really mean it. And I'd be drunk that afternoon. So I understood that I didn't have the power to separate from alcohol. So I signed myself into a treatment center. And this treatment center was a doozy. More has been revealed, in professional treatment today, thank God. But what this particular treatment center did for me was they just put me in this. It was two wings of a hospital, and it was locked down. And there was maybe 60 of us in there. And day after day, hour after hour, you know what they did to us? They put us in group. You ever been in group? Where there's one mutton head after the other talking about themselves? Oh my God, listen to this guy. Oh, geez, what an idiot. I wish he would just shut up. I want to share. And it's just group after group after group. That's what they were treating me with, as an alcoholic. And but I was serious about this whole thing. I signed myself in. I'm going to do this. And when they let me out, what they did was they gave me two suggestions. One of them was a strong suggestion. You need to go to our step down program. It's an IOP. It's Tuesday and Thursday night. We want to see you back here. Okay. And we recommend that you go to some AA meetings. Okay. I mean, I was desperate enough to do that. I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't want to go to treatment. I didn't want to have to make my own bed in treatment and stand in line for food. I hadn't done any of that stuff in 1,000 years. I never did anything I didn't want to do. That's part of alcoholism. We don't do anything we don't want to do. And so signing myself into a treatment center was doing all this kind of stuff that I didn't want to do. So I get out of there. I'm going to outpatient. I'm going to AA. I'm telling everybody that I'm done drinking. And I'm on my way to an AA meeting one time, and the thought occurs to me that, I haven't really been putting 100% effort into this sobriety stuff. I'll bet you if I bought a gallon of vodka and I drank it, that would remind me why I'm doing all this stuff, and that would pump me up, and I would be able to jump back into this sobriety recovery stuff at 100 miles an hour. And that's what I'll do. And I went and I bought a gallon of vodka, and I started drinking it. And by the time the third drink went down and intoxication started to wash over me, I recognized the enormity of my mistake. I have opened up the cage door to the beast, and the beast is going to be done with me when the beast is done with me, And I knew that, and I couldn't believe how stupid I had been. Now I didn't understand any of this until I really started to look at the material in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's really funny. They tell the story of Jim and the story of Fred and the story of the jaywalker, Bill's story, the man of 30. All these stories are examples of people who think they have power of choice in drink and don't. And I started to see a little bit about what I was up against with alcoholism. I've worked with a million guys over the years, and you know what kills most of us? The attitude that, yeah, I know, but I don't think this is going to be necessary in my case. Joining a home group, doing a fifth step, doing the amends, praying and meditating, working with other people. I know, but my case is a little bit different, and I'm not really convinced it's going to be necessary in my case. And that kills more of us, I think, than anything else. So I come back from this crazy relapse. It lasted about 7 months, and it was the most decadent, pathetic, lonely tragic period of my life because I'd had experience with some sobriety, and I come back in, and I'm not sure this thing Alcoholics Anonymous is going to work, but I was out of plans, and I had a willingness that really was born of desperation. I really was desperate. I knew that I was probably going to die, which was less concerning than I was probably going to kill you, which was more concerning. So, because I was a violent, insane alcoholic, and I would come to horrified at the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde antics that I had put on the night before. You know what I mean? So I came back into Alcoholics Anonymous and I plugged in and I fellowshipped. I came in right around 89, 90, and AA in my area was a great fellowship area. I mean, the fellowship was better back then than it is now, I think. There was just all kinds of activities and a lot of young people, and we were dating each other, and we had volleyball teams, and we were going to the slow, painful root canal-esque sober dances together, and every single night we're out at the diner, eating and just talking crap, and it was a lot of fun. It pulled me in, and that fellowship, what it did was it reintroduced me to society. Alcoholism, just like drug addiction or anything else, it's an illness of isolation. And every single year that went by, my life got smaller and smaller and smaller. Things just got peeled off of my life. More friends would disappear, more activities would stop, and it just got to be a very, very small life. So this fellowship is bringing me back out into the world, Somebody would call me up and go, hey, we're going to go over and we're going to help Harry move. I'm like, who's Harry? I don't know Harry. Do I still got to help? Yeah, you got to help. Come on. So we're doing all this stuff. And here's the thing. I believe today that alcoholism, in a way, is a toxic experience of self-consciousness. When we separate from alcohol, it becomes spiritual, and it becomes emotional, and it becomes mental. The illness, alcoholism, and how it looked in me was, I was restless, I was irritable, I was discontented, I was judgmental, I was critical. I had a problem with anybody or anything. I'm fellowshipping, but I've got a terrible, terrible attitude. And, half the people in my home group I couldn't stand. And that's not good. You got to kind of get along a little. And I couldn't stand some of these people. And it got very, very untenable. So something happened that, some people talk about this. They talk about a jumping off place. They talk about a second surrender. They talk about a sober bottom. I think they all are speaking to what happened to me. My brand new girlfriend broke up with me. The one that I met getting off the druggy buggy, which this is another thing. If you're new or coming back, I just want to warn you that that's not a great place for hooking up and dating either. But anyway, we got along for at least a month, and she broke up with me, and I lost my job, and then I started to get mail, and in the mail there was terminology like fleeing to avoid prosecution. I don't know about anybody else, but things became a to-do. And, certain things became a to-do, and I didn't want to do anything I didn't want to do. So I had gone down to college. I spent 4 years, and I'm very proud of the 6 credits I got in those 4 years. But I caused a lot of trouble down in this place called Tampa, Florida, and the cops were after me. I blew out on DUIs. I left unpaid ambulance bills and just community service that I was all this stuff. I just said it was just too much. It was a to do. So I moved back to New Jersey and just forgot about all of it until the computers caught up with me, and in 1990, and so all this happened in about a week's period of time, and I had no spiritual fortitude. I didn't have the capacity to be able to emotionally handle all of this. And I know what some people describe as a nervous breakdown. I kind of know what that is because that's what I had. I remember going over to my sponsor's house and I couldn't even talk. I'm just like, I'm showing him the papers work and everything. And he's like any good sponsor. Hey, do you pray? What? I want to see you at a meeting today. Yeah. God, I don't need a meeting. I need guns. Sponsors never understand when you're new. So I had been exposed to some Joe and Charlie workshops. One of my buddies gave me these tapes and said, I didn't like these, but something tells me you ought to listen to them. And they spoke this language. They spoke this language that I wasn't hearing in the meetings. They talked about a recovery program, and I didn't, I thought it was something they did in Arkansas. You know what I mean? But we don't do that in New Jersey. New Jersey, we share. But what had happened is this bottom just destroyed me. And the information on those tapes always did haunt me. So to fast forward a little bit, what happened was I gave the 12 steps a shot. I started over on this tape set. I blew the dust off of my big book. I got a notebook, and I started to do the best I could do on my own, listening to tapes. And go through the 12 steps. Now, I did a really crappy job. The good news about this recovery stuff is it's not really graded. It's like pass fail, and I did enough work. That what happened is my spirit started to heal. I came to all of you with a crushed spirit, the closer you were to me, the more I hurt you and the more I let you down. All right? The more promises I made that I didn't keep, the more argumentative I was, the more unpredictable I was, the closer you were to me, you were getting the most hurt by me. And if you do that, and these are people that I actually did love, we can be the most horrible human beings in the world out there, and it doesn't mean we don't love the people that were around. I did. I just, I was caught up in something called alcoholism that was more powerful than I was, and a lot of bad things happened, and so. I'm not a psychopath. If I do something that really hurts somebody, there's damage to me. I feel guilt and shame and remorse and all that kind of stuff. So I showed up to you with all that, with an enormous package of regrets and shame and embarrassment and just not feeling really good about myself as a human being. And I had learned how to act as if I'm not insane. That's a skill set we all have to learn out there, And so I acted like I was a half decent AA, but there was some real problems going on with me emotionally. And I started to go through these steps. And what I believe the steps did is I believe the steps started to heal my spirit. You know, I believe the recovery process. There's a whole lineup of some of the best speakers in the Northeast. I'm telling you, you're going to have a couple of days here. It's going to be great, and each one of them is going to share from their own personal experience how the recovery process has impacted them, and and I believe the 12 steps as they're laid out in the book Alcoholics Anonymous are an absolute perfect approach for treating what is really wrong with me. And that is that toxic experience of self-consciousness. You know, I was always up in my head. So life was basically unbearable because of this. If I wasn't rehashing harms done to me in the past or harms I had done to you in the past, I was anxious about what was going to go on tomorrow. What the heck, tomorrow's going to be bad. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to go to work. You know, my boss is going to yell at me, and I'm going to yell back, and I'll probably have to hit him. You know, and then I'll get fired. You know, I won't have any money, and this is going through my head as I'm driving to work. And if it's not that, it's like, I can't believe I did that. You know, I can't believe, I set their couch on fire twice, Oh, I mean, so this is the hurricane in my head. And it's unbearable. And that's toxic self-consciousness. And I came to you with different levels of that, Sometimes it was really bad, sometimes it was almost tolerable. And I believe what the 12 steps are designed to do is they're designed to remove all the obstacles to going from a self-consciousness to a spiritual consciousness or a God consciousness, where there's comfort and there's purpose and there's ease, like there's serenity, and the steps are perfect for that. And the thing about the steps is they don't look like they're going to work. You don't walk into your first meeting and look up at how it works and go, finally something that's going to work. You don't think they're going to work. They're experiential. They have to be experienced. You can't learn them intellectually. You have to learn them experientially. And for one reason or another, I think it was because I had so much respect for a number of people that I started to become exposed to who had working knowledge and experience with the 12 steps that I bought in. I bought in enough to get started on this. And the thing about this spiritual way of life that I think is so cool. Remember, I'm the guy that doesn't believe anybody. I have a problem with everything and everybody. I know how to take any argument apart. I'm against it, whatever it is. I'm like that guy. And so for something like the steps to work, they have to show benefit. There has to be evidence presented to me that these are beneficial. And these steps have evidence. And the evidence are the promises that come after each of these action steps. They're the evidence that this stuff works. And so I go through the steps kind of in a very, very half-assed way with the Joe and Charlie tapes. Then I get exposed to a man named Joe Hawk, and then it just the Bob B and Sandy B, all these tapes started to come out of the woodwork, and I started to really listen, and for probably a selfish reason, I would get a lot of comfort out of listening to spiritual people. I would get a lot of comfort out of reading spiritual books. I'd get a lot of comfort out of watching spiritual documentaries. And that comfort is good, but the fundamental changes that I can tell you that were affected in me didn't come from listening. They came from the actual action I took with some of this program stuff, and that was the evidence. So all of a sudden, my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous is changing. My first year or so, I was the fellowship guy. You were patting me on the head, saying, "Chris, you're doing great. I see you at all the meetings. Good going." And meanwhile, inside, I am dying inside 1,000 deaths. I get exposed to the recovery process, and have a spiritual awakening of the educational variety slowly over the course of time, because slowly over the course of time, I'm going through the step work, and I'm starting to see things differently. They talk about having a spiritual awakening, and I think that's a good description. I think I wake up. I wake up and I start to see things as they really are. The way I saw things prior to recovery was strange. It was strangely insane. I would overreact. I would see things that weren't really true. I would believe things that weren't really true. I would make up stories and belief systems that were really, off the wall. And I think as I moved through these 12 steps, I started to really see things as they really were. And it is kind of like waking up, waking up to reality. Now, that's my fellowship experience. That's my recovery experience. There's a service experience that I've had, and it's probably unconventional. I think many of us have unconventional service experiences. There's the being the GSR going all the way up to the delegate and all that. That's Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's some guardrails on that. But I think what's really important is developing a service ethic. And this wasn't something that I made a decision to do, or I put a plan into action to become of service. It was an organic expression of the recovery that I experienced. So little by little, I went from being the guy like, I can't believe he's raising his hand and he's sharing again. What a blowhard. I wish he'd just shut up. I wish he'd just drink and just so I wouldn't have to listen to him anymore. I went from that guy to, hey, blowhards hasn't been at the meeting in 3 weeks. I think we need to give him a call and see if he's all right. So there's a change. I'm starting to think about other people more than myself. That was an organic change. And what can happen is that can really grow into a service life. And some of the people that I respect, some of my best friends in Alcoholics Anonymous, have enormous service lives. You watch what their feet do, and their feet are always involved with doing things that are going to be of benefit to other people. And that started to happen to me organically. I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? So when I showed up here a couple of years into sobriety, I was training for marathons. I was playing the guitar 4 hours a day. I was reading 3 hours a day. I was doing all this stuff. And listen, that's all good stuff, right? But it doesn't help you. And what happened is, these things started to drop off. I started to run less. I started to not play guitar as much. I started to read less, or focus my reading on stuff that I could learn and experience and then share with you. And my world changed, and all of a sudden I started to become more interested in you than in me. And that just doesn't make any sense, being me. But it's happened. And today I'm involved in so many different things. I'm on a million boards, and the phone rings off the wall. There's always something going on, right? And I'm all about it, I took a job about 8 months ago. So I retired. COVID hit, and I got furloughed, and they never unfurloughed me. I was waiting for them to unfurlough me. They'll call any day now. And so about 2.5 years, I'm retired, right? And I'll be completely honest with you. There's something that I love to do in between all this crazy service stuff, and that's that thing that I really, really love to do is nothing. And every once in a while, my wife will come up to me and ask me, "What are you doing?" Nothing. Nothing. So the suggestion was made a few times that I'm an able-bodied person, and I might think about getting a job. So a job came up. It's in my field. It's like I'm so overqualified for it. It's ridiculous, but that's perfect for me at this time in my life. I can do this job without even thinking about it, and it's really, really mellow. And what I do now is I run all the buildings and all the contracting and all the exterior services and all the repairs and everything for a hospice organization. So there's 4 buildings, and I'm in charge of making sure the boilers are working and all that stuff, which is easy for me. And there's just something different about this job than any other job that I've had. There's something spiritual about it. We lose somebody every day, and some of the things that I've been able to do in the last few months is give some of us their last meeting. And I gotta tell you, there's just something amazing about that. Listen, we end up there, whether we're sober or whether we're drunk, we end up there, and we're really easy to spot. Lung cancer, liver cancer, very easy, and I get a chance to sit and chill with somebody who's going into the next room real soon. And there's just, I'm at a place in my life today where I have an enormous amount of gratitude and peace about where I am, about the purpose in my life, about my activities, about the people I have an opportunity to be close to and to fellowship with. And I feel like I'm overpaid in every way you can be overpaid. I really am. If you're new, if you're coming back, you're probably not here. The people that need to be here are not here. You're all enthusiasts, most likely. You're people who who love Alcoholics Anonymous and want to get a good shot in the arm. But if there's somebody in here that's new or just coming back, a lot of this stuff is not going to look like it's going to work. A lot of this stuff is going to look like it's not going to work. It works for everybody. I'm telling you, all you have to do is become willing. Get a good sponsor, start to do some of the things your sponsor asks you to do. Your sponsor's going to ask you to do 2 things. They're going to ask you to do things that are stupid, and they're going to ask you to do things that are not going to work for you. They just don't understand. So if you want to be an Alcoholics Anonymous member in good standing, you do those things anyway, and you can be an AA member in good standing. I also want to touch on this. There was a guy I was sponsoring about 5 or 6 years ago. Met him through work, and just a really, really tough case. Lots of drugs in his history, a lot of opiates, alcohol showing up in AA. And he was a mess, multiple treatment episodes. And about 4 years ago, he invited me to speak for his 1 year anniversary. He had a home group where if you had an anniversary, you could invite the speaker. And I went down there. It's the last time I saw him. He stopped using me as a sponsor. 3 days ago, we saw it on Facebook. We lost him. This is a young kid. He's like 40. Beautiful wife and 3 kids, right? And on Facebook, it's saying that he fell and hit his head. It doesn't take a genius to figure out, what happened. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing people check out, before they've experienced this thing called recovery, before they've set right, set their path right, before they've balanced the scales like we get to do. I'm tired of seeing it. I think a call to action. Coming out of this thing called COVID, we lost half the fellowship in COVID. We did, and we're losing generations of people, folks. We just are. A call to action would be, let's get about the business of 12-step work again. Let's get out of business. Let's get into the business of not waiting for them to come up to us in a meeting and ask us to sponsor them. Let's get busy and try to find people like they did in the early days. There's too many people dying, and I go to 2 meetings up in my area. There's not a person under 50 in either of those meetings. Where there's a couple of generations missing. So, I'm going to end with a call to action. Just ask yourself in contemplative meditation, what can you do for the still sick and suffering alcoholic? And with that, I am going to end, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the speakers. This is going to be a very, very cool weekend. Anyway, thanks everybody.